Inside of our includes contact.php file, after the errors association with the validate message, we are going to create a few new lines, and we are going to first check if empty errors. That means if there aren't any errors, we can proceed with our message. And our message will start with simple variables, so message equals, and then we're gonna go for double quotes. You can use single quotes as well. And let's go for strong, and we're going to say department, colon, and then closing strong tag, and then we concatenate it with message full stop equals, because we're concatenating the previous message content with the following line, and we're gonna use get department rather than the department. We are going to have get department function, which we'll create in just a moment, and we fetch the value submitted through the form, which is going to be represented by the ID of the given record from the array. So post, and we're gonna go for department. There we go, and semicolon, and then we go into concatenated message. We're going to concatenate it with the BR, which is the new line in HTML. Let's save it, copy the name of the function, and go to the functions file, which is obviously located inside of the includes folder. And on the new line, we are going to start with the function get department. We pass in the ID of the record through as an argument. And what we are going to do, first of all, is create the departments array. Departments equals get departments. Now we have this array, and we are going to check if exclamation mark is set this time. And we're going to check departments array with this given ID key. So if it doesn't exist, basically, in other words, if it's not set, then die and display a message invalid department, meaning obviously someone has submitted form incorrectly again, submitting some invalid data. And then return department with the ID, which will get us the value associated with this ID. So if I just quickly go get department, there we go, this function. If we pass the ID, then we're gonna get the value associated with it, so we can display this nicely in a body of our email. Okay, let's go back to our includes contact. So this is the department line, and I'm going to copy the entire block so far, paste it underneath, and now important thing, we are concatenating. So the first message here needs to be concatenated as well. Only the first one is without the full stop, because we are just continuously adding to this first variable, basically. So everything is going to be concatenating as one string. Okay, so after department we have a name, and and the name will simply be fetched from the post, again from the form field name. So that's the name. For the next one, we copy this entire thing, paste it underneath. Rather than name, now it's going to be telephone, and the form field for the telephone was simply telephone. And again, let's copy this underneath. Rather than name, it's going to be email, and post form field for email is simply email. And then after that, we are going to have the message. So actually the comment. Let's give it a label of comment. And the post comes from the comment field. But now, rather than just putting this as a string, it's still going to be a string, but rather than having everything in line, because even if you type, if I just go back to the browser, even if I type, say, one line, second line, third line, all this is going to be displayed in one line, unless we are going to use the function we've used earlier, new line to BR, so NL number 2 BR. So basically each of these lines will be converted to the BR, HTML BR tag, like this one. We can now remove this closing BR tag because it's the last item in the message, and start with the conditional if statement. We are going to use the function called send HTML email, which we'll create in just a moment. So let's just use it, send HTML email. And this function takes 4 arguments. First one being the name and the email address of the person that submitted the form. So in between a double quote, first set of curly braces, I'm going to go for post and get name from this collection. Then after this space, brackets after the closing curly brace, starting with the left angle and closing angle bracket. In between, I'm going to put again set of curly braces and fetch the email from this submitted form. Next thing on our list is where we're going to be sent it to. So the first one is from, the other one is to. And we have already defined the constant for this, which is called contact_to. If we check our config.php file, you'll see we have contact_to here with ssdtutorials@gmail.com. Can close this config file. So this is to. Then we have the subject of the message, and in between the double quotes, I'm going to type inquiry from my website. After this, last fourth argument will be the message. So we pass the message through, and then set of curly braces for when this send HTML returned true, and then else statement after that for when it returned false. And we are going to create the feedback variable equals and then the message. In between the opening closing paragraph tag, what I'm going to put is your message has been sent successfully. There we go. And now I'm going to copy this entire thing, paste it in the else statement. So if it wasn't successful, then your message, say, could not be sent. You can obviously expand it a little bit further, just say call us to and explain what's happened or whatever. I'm just going to keep it short for this exercise. Copy the name of the function. We can save and close this file because that's everything we need to do inside of this include contact file. We go back to our functions.php, and the first thing we're going to do is define our new function. So function send HTML email, and this one takes from as the first argument, then to as the second one, then we have subject of the message, and the last item was the message itself, so message. There we go. And what this function will do, first of all, we need to define the end of line. And remember, this is not just the end of line for our existing system, the system when we actually run in the script, it's the end of line for the email clients. And to cover all of them, we are going to create the variable end of line and associate the default end of line to make sure that it's compatible with all mail clients. Now, in between the double quotes, this is important, it needs to be double quote. We need to put backslash, then R, then backslash N. This should cover most, if not all, email clients. Then we're gonna go for the message. So message variable, we are overwriting the existing message. We are word wrapping it. As you may remember, we need to make sure that it's no longer than 70 characters. And we pass the message through as an argument. Then how many characters? 70. And what do we want to put at the end of line to indicate that it's the end of line? Use our end of line variable, which contains the string that we actually want at the end of line. Now, it's all nice, but it's an HTML message. And if we go back to our functions, to our contact, includes contact, let's actually keep it open. You'll see that we have here strong tags, we have BRs, but we don't have any wrapping paragraph tag or anything like this. So what we're going to do, going back to functions.php, we are going to wrap this message with a paragraph and some, say, styling. We define the color for the font, font family, and so on. So let's use the function, which we'll create in just a moment as well. Call it wrap HTML message. And let's wrap this message variable with it. So if I copy the name of the function and right after our send HTML email, which isn't finished yet, we are going to create this one. So function wrap HTML message. And this one only takes one argument, which is our message. Inside of this function, what I'm going to do is simply create the output variable. And I'm going to start in between the single quotes with the paragraph, with the style attribute. And this style attribute, obviously, equals style equals double quotes. And we're going to start with the color of the font. So color, then colon, and we're going to define it as 333, which is this kind of dark gray. Then font hyphen family. I would like to use Arial. I don't like Times New Roman, so Arial, Helvetica. And if they don't have any of these, just serve me the default sans hyphen serif. Okay, so that's the first line, obviously semicolon at the end. closing single quote, and semicolon to obviously indicate it's the end of the statement. Then we're going to concatenate this output variable. So full stop equal this time. Again, single quote, we start with the font size, colon, and we're going to say we want it to be 12 pixels. Then semicolon to separate definitions. Padding, I would like padding to be 20 pixels from the top and the bottom, and 15 on left and right. And then semicolon again. The next definition will be for the border. So border, I'm going to surround our message with like a box with a gray background and a border, basically. That's what I want to do. So border, I'm going to make it solid, 1 pixel, and say AAA hash. Color for that, which is light gray. And then we go for another line. So output concatenating all this again, this time with background color of F9, F9, F9. Remember, they have to be preceded with a hash, but I presume you either know this already or just simply type what I'm typing here if you're not familiar with CSS and HTML. As it's not really part of this course, it's something we use additionally to our PHP programming. Okay, after the background color, line hyphen height, which will be 21 pixels, and I think that's enough. So let's just put semicolon at the end, closing double quote, closing angle bracket, semicolon at the end of the statement, and then we concatenate all this. So output again, concatenating with the message, so message in between the opening, and obviously output again, concatenating with the closing paragraph tag. And then we can obviously return output to make sure that obviously this function returns what we've just composed here. Okay, so we have our message already wrapped. We have it with the HTML styling as well. It's wrapped with the paragraph. So let's go to the next line. Next line will be headers. So we start with the headers variable equals, and we start with the in between a double quote from capital F and then ROM lowercase, and then space, colon space, and here we're going to put the from argument, basically the variable which has been passed through as an argument. So we've got this name and email address, and after this what we are going to put is the end of line. So we want to separate each header with the end of line. Okay, so semicolon at the end of the statement. Now let's duplicate this line, and in PHP Storm you can simply put the cursor anywhere in the line and just use Command or Control D to duplicate the line. Obviously this time, rather than recreating headers, we are concatenating them. So full stop equal, rather than from, this time it's going to be reply hyphen to, and everything else stays exactly the same. Let's duplicate this line again, and this time we are gonna go for, rather than reply to, it's going to be MIME hyphen version, just the first letter capital for version, and then rather than having this from, we are going to replace it with 1.0. Again, end of line stays as it was before. Then let's duplicate this line. Rather than version, MIME version, this time we're going to have content hyphen type, and it's going to be text /HTML because it's an HTML email that we're sending. Then semicolon space charset, so charset equals ISO hyphen 8859 hyphen 1. And then again, end of line after that. That's pretty much everything for our headings. Now it's time to actually call the mail function. And we are going to return whatever this mail function is going to return. And we know mail function returns Boolean true or false. True if it has sent a message successfully, false if it didn't. So mail, and the first argument for the mail function is the 2. So 2 argument, which has been passed through as an argument as well to this function. Then we have a subject. As you can see, it's automatically prompting me what I should put in here. So subject, then we have message, then we have additional headers, which is basically headers we've just created here. And then we can put semicolon at the end. So that's everything inside of our send HTML email function. Let's now, what we are going to be actually doing, go back to our pages contact.php, just pages contact.php, because as you may remember, inside of the includes contact.php, we have this feedback variable which we've created here, but we haven't used it anyway yet. So at the beginning of the form, right after the heading, what we are going to do is check if is set feedback, what we are going to do, I'm going to put this is set actually on a new line, set of curly brackets, and then else set of curly brackets, but I'm going to close the PHP tag, make sure that this closing, this curly brace is removed, because what we're doing, if the feedback is available, then we're going to echo it. So we're going to basically display this feedback. Otherwise, we are going to display the form, because feedback will only be available when we've submitted the form, which means the feedback, this message, which we actually created here, I'll put in here, is going to basically replace the form. Otherwise, obviously, if it's not available, so else statement, display this form. So we have opening curly bracket, closing PHP tag, and after the form, at the end of the form, what we need to do is close this else statement. So opening PHP tag, closing curly brace, and closing PHP tag. So now it all should just work fine. So if we go back to the browser and preview everything in the browser, actually, there we go, refresh the page. If we select something, let's put some name, my name here, email address, and some telephone number, and let's just put, say, test message from our form. Here's the second line and the third one. Okay, and if I now hit send message, there we go, we get the confirmation message there. The form has disappeared and we've got your message has been sent successfully. Again, if you're on Windows, you probably see the other message that it did not send successfully. In which case, obviously, don't worry about this. You'll have a chance to test it in the next chapter. We are uploading the entire project to the server, so you'll be able to test it there. Okay, let's quickly check my email. If I refresh, there we go, the message arrived, and here's what it's formatted as. So we have content, we have cells. As you can see, we don't have any space between this colon here and the actual value submitted through the form. So this is one thing to be corrected. Obviously, comment, again, the first line is on together with the heading, and then the others go onto the new line. So that's also something we could obviously sort out. So let's go back to our editor and let's quickly fix it. If we go back to our includes contact, after our strong here, let's put the space, same for this one. For each line that we've got a strong, let's put space, except for the comment. On the comment, we are going to put actually a new line because we want the first line to be on a new line after the comment. So let's save it. Go back to the browser. Now, because the message has just been submitted, all we have to do is refresh the page. So hit refresh, and yes, we want to resubmit the form. So what we've just submitted, resubmit it. If you've already reloaded the page, then just fill in the form again and try again. But if you just work along with this video, just simply click on continue. If we now go back to our email, check the file, you can see you've got two messages now. Which one is the latest one? There we go. This is the second one, which we've just submitted. So as you can see, now we've got a space here between the labels and the values. And obviously the comment, the entire block goes on the new line rather than starting on the same line. So that's our form. That's pretty much everything with this website. Our website is now fully functional. Obviously, you can load the content. Feel free to load whatever you need to this website. The form is working. So we are now ready to move to the next chapter when we're actually uploading the website to the server.